You are now listening to the Going North podcast. I'm your host, millennial author, professional speaker, and book enthusiast, Dom Brightmon. Every Monday and Thursday, you will hear the voice of an author share their stories, how they had to overcome some trials in life, how they published their books, and not only that, they will leave you with some pearls of wisdom to create a dynamic life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we have, you guessed it, another author, but not just any author. We have a wonderful lady right here who grew up in Florida, more specifically the Fort Lauderdale area of Florida, with her mother and her two sisters. She graduated from the University of Phoenix in 2005 with her Bachelor's of Science in Business Management. And now she lives in the wonderful state of Texas with a beautiful husband and daughter, Kiara. And you're probably wondering, who is this wonderful lady right here who has been blessed with 3 additional children through marriage, as well as 3 beautiful grandbabies? I'm talking about the one, the only, Tyria Jones. How are you today, ma'am?
Hi, I'm great today. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, doing great indeed, So I just gave a short little introduction into the wonderful world of Mrs. Jones. Yeah, I probably should have played that in the beginning. So my filling in.
That was actually played at my wedding.
Oh, man, perfect indeed. So my filling in some cavities where I may have missed some things.
I have, like you said, I have 3 bonus children through marriage, but I also have a son and 3 daughters in addition to those 3 bonus children. Prior military, so I moved around a lot. So what I call home is anywhere I am for more than 2 years. So that's why I consider Houston my home now, because we've been here for 3.5 years now. I don't know if there are any listeners who can relate, but I used to, every 2 years, I'd get itchy. You know, I got to do something different after we got out of the military. So I've gotten used to being here now, and I love the Houston area. It's a great city, great things going on here.
So you mentioned military. Did you spend some awesome time during service? In service?
I actually served 4 years. My husband retired, so mine was short. So, it was short and sweet.
Okay, cool. So I'm guessing the Army?
It's not favorite, but it wasn't for me.
Bad memories, huh?
It just wasn't the experience. It's a great experience. It's a great career if you want to go that route, but I was not used to being away from home, and so the experience for me was difficult when I started out, because I'd never left home, never had been away from home for more than a few days, and being gone for months was hard for me. But for people who like to travel, then it's great, because you do get to see a lot of different places.
Very true indeed. You mentioned that whole itch thing every 2 years, so it's like you've probably been to all over the darn globe.
Yeah, after a while you get used to it. You get to meet a lot of different people, the different places you go. Even within the United States, cultures are different depending on where you are. So even though you're in the United States, people are different from state to state. And if you get a chance to go out of the country, that's even better, because you get to see how they live as opposed to how we live here.
Very true indeed. Any favorite cities before moving to Houston?
Favorite cities? Well, favorite country, Germany was pretty. Germany is very pretty. A whole lot different from the United States. Very pretty over there. And then, they have castles. It's very nice over there.
Ah, the castle. So is that what inspired the title of your book, A Crown of Beauty for Ashes?
Actually, God gave me that title. I had no idea what my title was going to be. And I attend Lakewood Church here in Houston. I was in church one Sunday, and what Pastor Joel does before prayer, he usually gives exhortation. And sometimes he says God will give you beauty for ashes. And when he said that one Sunday, God told me A Crown of Beauty for Ashes is your title. So that's how I got my title for the book.
Sweet.
I don't know about other authors. I write according to what I'm given, when God inspires me and he tells me what to write. So, from the book title to the individual chapters, all of that, I couldn't have written this book without God giving it to me. Even though it was a life experience, sometimes it's hard to tell your own story without some things you may want to put into that story that it may not be time for you to tell that part, or you may want to leave some things out. That was the most difficult part for me, things that I wanted to leave out, but I had to put those things in there because normally I'm a very private person. So that book revealed a lot of who I am, and it was like opening up my soul and just letting everybody see in. So it was difficult for me to write that book and to share so much.
Yes, indeed. And having God's help with anything is really the ultimate advantage to accomplishing just about anything you want to do, more importantly, what God wants you to do.
Right.
So any advice for those who have stories buried deep within their beings and waiting to get them out to the world, but they're just so darn scared to actually put the pen to paper and actually turn the paper into published paper?
I would say if you have, everybody has a story. I always say everyone has a story to tell, and everyone has a story that will help someone else along the way. So their story has value in it. Their story can help someone through their healing process. A lot of people have said to me, I feel more comfortable to share what happened to me after reading your book, or I've had friends say, now I can write my book because you were brave enough to write yours. So everybody has a story, and if they're afraid to write that story, don't think about the finished product. Just write. Get a journal and just write. And when it's time for that book to move to the next step to be published, they'll know the timing. But right now, just focus on the first step and just write. Don't worry about, when it's completed, what's going to happen, because we allow fear to stop us from doing the things that we know that God has called us to do, because there are people out there that only we can reach. So instead of thinking ahead, think right now, what can I do now to get moving toward that end goal?
There you go. That is really awesome right there, because it's always good to plan ahead and have a vision, but at the same time, folks sometimes just get so scared about the future they don't pay attention to the here and now.
Right.
So since you're a part of the Lakewood Church, I'm pretty sure you read all of Joel Osteen's books 5 times over.
I don't know why that's so funny to me. I actually have not. We have a lot of them because we usually receive one in the mail. Every time he writes a new one, he sends copies to the members, but I actually have not read all of them.
It's all good. It's all good. Just make sure he doesn't hear this podcast. So in addition to... Well, make sure he hears this podcast, but not your episode. Tell him to go far away from this episode. Like, hey, it's one of my members. I'm going to go ahead and this list. Like, no, press that button. No. Yeah, but in addition to some of his good books in the Bible, what books have really inspired you to really keep going and be the best Tyra you can be?
One of my favorite authors is Beth Moore. I love her books. There has always been a book for no matter what season I'm in. I can always find one of her books, that usually I can read. I like Christian authors. I do have authors that I read on, like Mary Higgins Clark. I like her style of writing, but as far as Christian authors, I like Beth Moore because she feeds my spirit. And I, at times when you're feeling like you're in a season that you don't understand, books like that are really good. And I love her books also because she takes Christian language and, the Bible, and she makes it very practical, and she breaks it down to where anybody can read it, and it directs me back to God's Word. As far as books that have inspired me, I do love, like I said, Mary Higgins Clark, because one day I want to be a fiction writer. It just amazes me how she comes up with these different storylines and these plots, and she makes it look so easy. But yeah, I want to be a author one day of fiction.
How close do you think you are to that goal? Because you already got one book out. I mean, after one,
I know,
it should
but
be.
Yeah, see, I knew you were going to say that. It should be easy.
Yep. Well, easier.
Yeah, well, you know what? The funny thing is it's not. It's like, because I'm working on my second book, and the first book, it took me 3 to 4 months to write it. But this book is taking so much longer because it's pulling more out of me, and it's going into deeper places. So it really depends on the book. As far as, it doesn't matter if it's the first, second, third. It depends on the book and the content of the book. So it would seem like it would get easier, but yeah, it just depends on what you're writing. That first book should have been hard because it was my first one, but it wasn't. It came out of me easier because I think the area that I was writing about, I was healed over that. So it was easier for me to write it. This book, there's still some areas that God is still healing me. It's emotionally taxing for me right now to write it. But I know that this book is going to help more people than the first book helped.
Sounds like an awesome plan indeed. Nick, you are all right, because, I mean, sometimes no matter how good we may be, there may be sometimes where that project may not be ready yet. I remember John Maxwell, in the introduction of his book, Leadership Gold, he mentioned how this was the book he wanted to write after he turned 50, and after he turned 50, he would publish that book. So it's true. I mean, even though you've already been through the writing and the editing and the publishing, there's still that time we have to just probably take a step back and really put more effort into what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, especially if you're drawing a lot out of that well you got right there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
If you were to go back in time and give yourself some advice and do it all over again, and you're 25 in 2018 with all the technology and resources we have today, what advice would you give to yourself?
Okay, twofold. The first advice I give my 25-year-old self is take your time. There is no rush. Enjoy life. And it's okay to be single. It is perfectly okay to be single. That's the first advice I give myself. And the second thing I'd say to myself, with all of the technology and the resources that we have available to us, I would say follow your dream. And the reason I say that is because there's always been a writer in me, but I just did not allow that writer to come out because you grow up hearing, well, you just need to get a good job, you need to stay at that company, you need to retire. Even now I've had people say, okay, when they ask you, well, what do you do for a living? And I say, I'm an author. So then the look that they give you, it's like, okay, but what else do you do? Because, they think, okay, you just sit home and twiddle your thumbs every day. They don't see it as a real job. So, you don't have to feel like you have to live up to other people's expectations. Follow your dream, and whatever that dream is, keep going no matter what everybody else says that you should be doing.
Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. Sage advice indeed. Because the biggest person you have to prove something to is yourself.
That's right.
All right, for those who want to keep in touch with you and keep up with what you're doing and especially be informed about book number 2 and possibly number 3, where can we find you and keep in touch with you?
My website is tyriajones.com, and that's spelled Tyria, D as in David, Jones.com. They can also find me on Instagram at Tyria Jones and Facebook as well.
Woohoo! Well, also, we'll go on ahead and keep up with Tyra's actions and buy, 3 copies of her first book while you're waiting for the 3rd book, even though the 2nd book ain't out just yet. And go on ahead and follow and support Tech. Even leave some good old Amazon reviews. Those are always helpful.
Yes, they are. Thank you.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books. Be sure to check out the rest of the backlog too while you're at it and share all those too. And in order to make the rest of your week the best of your week, remember to advance others to advance your